Howdy, everyone. My name's Nicholas, and this is the Headliner PodPod. For this week's episode, we've decided to give Oliver a bit of a break from hosting in order to mix things up a bit. This was a mutual decision that in no way involved me throwing a tantrum and refusing to stop holding my breath so that I could get a swing at bat, and we're just going to play this thing by ear and see how it goes. So, for those of you who are new to the show, the Headliner PodPod is a show about podcasts featuring podcasts by podcasters that's hosted by people who help podcasters with their podcasting. So, in case that wasn't clear enough already, we aren't a show on Disney+. Anyway, we had over 500 submissions from shows that want to be featured on this, and we intend to work through each and every one of them until we hit what we call Podcast Zero, or Pod Zero. And to do this, we have a fun little game we like to play involving AI-selected snippets from a few of those shows. So here are the rules. Each of the people on this call are going to hear a 60-second podcast clip, and then one of them is going to need to pick the correct podcast title from a lineup of 3 choices. But before we do that, let's just say hi to everybody on the show today, and I'll just pick you at random, starting with Elissa.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elissa, and I'm the marketing manager here at Headliner.
Cool. Marketing manager here at Headliner. Next, we have Jesse.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jesse Gibbons, and I am the account manager here at Headliner.
Christy.
My name's Christy, and I am head of support and party guru here at Headliner.
The party guru is new for me. And Max.
Hey, everybody. I'm Max. I am the product designer here at Headliner.
And of course, we obviously have Oliver, who's acting more as a producer this week because, and I can't state this enough, I threw a tantrum and refused to stop holding my breath so that this would happen.
As long as you're breathing, I'm happy.
Okay, awesome. So let's just get things started. Let's just dive into things with our first clip. Elissa, you're first up because you're the first one on my Zoom. So you kind of know how this works already. You have to cover your eyes. You could use a book. You could use... I think last week, Dash used a glove at some point. You could just use whatever, and we'll play the clip. As soon as you hear audio, you could stop covering your eyes, give it a few seconds, and Oliver will switch us back to a page so that you don't know what's actually playing.
All right. I'll use my trusty sticky note thing here.
Okay.
Grows gradually, and then the effort, so then you reach a point, right? Let's say like the 50K mark, and then the amount of effort that's going to get you from like 50K to like 50K per month to 150K per month versus the ROI on that diminishes. So if you're not going to put the effort in to get to that next inflection point, it doesn't make sense. It's almost like if you're driving on a highway and you need to get off, you can either get off at this exit or you have to have enough gas in your car to get off at the other exit. It doesn't make sense to go past this exit if you're not going to make it to the next exit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So a lot of people see this current exit and have ambitions to go into the next one, but they don't have what their business takes to get to that next inflection point. So they end up missing out on an opportunity and being stuck in like nowhere land and being stuck on the side of the road in this analogy, right? And so that happens a lot. So you have to know what those
I'm on the side of the
inflection
road.
points are.
Okay. That was our clip. Here are your 3 options, Elissa. First off, I love that the clip ended on a laugh. That actually just fills me with joy whenever that happens. Okay, so your 3 options are, that was the first title, verbatim. No, kidding. Your actual options are Rich in Real Life, Show Me the Money, Baby, and Jessica Goes a Bankin'.
Okay. I love the last one. I hope that is it. I'm not going to pick that one. What was the first option again?
Rich in Real Life.
I feel like that's probably the most realistic, and given that, I don't know, if these were like AI generated, I feel a little conflicted, but I'm going to lock in the first one, Rich in Real Life. I feel like that would be the podcast name, but I hopefully want the third one because I like that.
So you actually want to be wrong for this?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think I am, but I would love to be.
I'm sorry, Elissa, you actually got it right. It is Rich in Real Life.
Dang.
Okay.
I'm conflicted.
I'm so
about
sorry. I mean, we can go again if you want, but yeah, you got it right. And for anyone that's curious, this is the show description, which is a bit of a doozy, so lock yourself in. After 4 years of embracing our Struck Through the Stranded Phase podcasts, it's time we shift and decide to change our own narrative. For those who followed along on this journey, this doesn't mean we won't be met with pain, we won't get hurt, or we won't go through transitional periods. It means it's time we invite wealth into our life in all forms. A long and unsolicited healing journey led Jessica to realize that being rich had nothing to do with money. Money is the byproduct. This long and necessary invitation sent her searching inwards and eventually brought her to finding happiness in being rich with connection, rich with community, rich in soul, rich in love, rich in spirit, rich in family, and so much more. From EMDR therapists, relationship coaches, neurologists, seven-figure earners, shamans, and soul-thrilling conversations, her goal is to help you put words to feelings you felt but may not understand. This podcast includes, but is not limited to, everyone she is connected with that helped change her life. From dear friends in business to people she trusts, you'll be invited into honest conversations about growing, evolving, and dealing with personal and professional journeys at the same damn time. That wasn't color on my part. That it really said same damn time. So yeah, sounds like this is a very storied podcast, for sure. Moving on, unless anyone has any comments about the clip or anything along those lines, we have Jesse at bat.
I liked the gas analogy. I've been going to think about that for the rest of the day. And Jesse's actually brought a tool with him.
Wow. We have a prop. Perfect.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just
take
want
my
to say,
glasses off. I'm nearly legally blind.
yeah, I really like the description of the last episode or the last show. I feel like that was actually a great description. But I will say that mixing a seven-figure earner with a shaman sounds like what I'd refer to as a nightmare blunt rotation. So I hope to never have to encounter that.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing to call it. It's interesting. I'm definitely curious, like, were those back-to-back episodes? You know what I mean? Like, we're going to talk to a shaman, but we're going to have a seven-figure millionaire, as a chaser. Okay. So, Jesse, your eyes are covered. Let's go right into clip number 2.
Then as technology progressed, it became easier to get, studio equipment, or at least on computers. Like guitar players started to do the drum machine and then just write riffs and then present to us with song structure. So it really cut the practice time down. It's good and bad. I mean, people can be creative on their own, but sometimes I really did enjoy the rehearsing ideas together, hashing out ideas. And one of our most popular songs is a song called Endless, and the breakdown on that song was slightly different when it was first written. So the song was the way it was, and coming out of the heavy stoner part towards the end. And our drummer at the time, Mike Rudberg, he dropped his stick before he went to the breakdown. And the way he picked up so quickly that it created a stutter, it changed the breakdown a little bit. And just as soon as it happened, our drummer just stood up, he threw sticks, and he walked around the room like patting his head. That's how he expresses his excitement on things. We kind of realized we stumbled into making the song better. So that doesn't happen when you're doing it on your own.
Okay. So, really interesting clip. I actually have a comment about it that I might share later. But, Jesse, here are your 3 options for what this show might be called.
All right.
Number 1, musicians, songs, and beer. 2, verse, chorus, verse. And 3, behind the board.
So I think I'm leaning number 3 right now, behind the board. I'm assuming that these are all music podcast titles. So it's obviously a music podcast. They're breaking down, they're going behind the scenes of a set that they did or a concert where something happened and it changed the feeling of the song and the concert, and probably is something that they've carried forward. And so I'm going to go number 3, behind the board.
Is that your final answer?
I'm locking it in, Nicholas.
Okay. Yeah, I got to work on a Regis Philbin impression for these with that question. But anyway, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, you are mistaken, sir. It is the second option, verse, chorus, verse. But, hey, you got what the show's about. So, here's the description of the show, and then we could talk about the clip if anyone has any comments about it. DL is a lifelong music obsessor and student. With the help of friends Evil Jimmy, Rachel Polio, I might have said that wrong, and I'm definitely saying this one wrong, Sven Knudsen, Verse, Chorus, Verse tackles band dissections, album reviews, and interviews of fantastic guests from all parts of the industry. Also drinks. Lots of drinks. So I see the also drinks part, and now I suddenly understand why the first fake choice was musicians, songs, and beer.
That ChatGPT?
I don't know, Oliver, were any of these Chat GPT'd?
I
These feel
haven't
like
ChatGPT.
all of them.
Okay, so every single. Sorry, Alyssa, what were you saying?
I was just saying they feel like you, some of them.
100% me, all of them. There was no GPT this week.
Okay.
So,
Well,
and I think the GPT was just too scary.
It's getting too real.
it was getting a bit too real. It was asking personal questions. So does anyone have any comments about the content of the clip itself? Anything like that? I actually was pretty curious about this show from listening to it personally. I want to know who Evil Jimmy is and why he's so evil. I'm imagining like Jimi Hendrix, but instead of playing rock music, he's into doo-wop and he has a mustache, like an evil Spock mustache or something.
That is so evil.
I love this stuff. This is like right up my alley when it comes to like music making. Usually it's the mistakes that, or like just accidents is what causes like the music to change. So them telling that story, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna actually go ahead and listen to this episode.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Christy. Like, this is exactly the kind of podcast for me. It's full of like random trivia about music that I may not have ever heard, but I just want to put that information in my Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Like the little comment about the drumstick reminded me of why like Ringo was the drummer for the Beatles. It's because he was a lefty who played a righty kit. So he did everything backwards and it gave him a unique sound.
Yeah, that's really goofy. It's like there's so many weird little music things that have so many cool stories like that, or how Genesis found like his drum sound in the 80s because it's like a weird compression thing. It's all that stuff is goofy and it's like all my favorite stuff.
No, exactly.
There's another thing about their design choice that they did here. In the logo, the verse, chorus, verse, and they have us in the middle with a different color, and it's a podcast for music nerds by music nerds. So it's really emphasizing the sense of community. I think that's a really nice design choice.
Yeah.
No,
I really like that.
Is this good? Is this good branding? This is good branding to me. Like the us is like the FedEx thing with the arrow in it. Like it reminds me of that.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of it. I was going to make a comment about the us call out too. And then also like thinking just like the contrast point of view, like very accessible. So we love that. Also a podcast for music nerds by music nerds, kind of like the headliner PodPod. So already a fan of that. Easy to remember, direct, will resonate with your audience. I like it.
It's less of a tongue twister than ours too. Ours is approaching like a limerick to say it. I'm just saying.
What would ours be if we named it like this, like rant, tangent, rant or something?
It would be like podcast
Pod
your
rant.
podcast.
I want
Pod
to
yelling at
be
clouds, something like that.
Who's the band? Now I'm curious. Like I want to know who they're talking about in this episode.
We don't have that here. I'm assuming it would be in the episode title. Oliver, do you happen to remember that at all?
No.
Okay. Well, Max, there's
Beatles.
one very easy way to
Ringo.
find out. It's called binge listening.
Yes.
Subscribe. I'll subscribe.
Exactly.
I'll follow.
And then
first.
please tell us who it is, Okay. So next up, we have Christy. So Christy, you're covering your face. Let's pull up the clip.
The High Command said all could come, but Mr. Nagatomi said no, not Americans, only Filipinos. Fathers will see their children for the first time in a year, and one, his 8-month-old infant, for the first time. But it will be at a distance, as visitors are required to stay by the guardhouse on the other side of the road, and prisoners are not allowed to cross. I've been desperately, unutterably, unbearably homesick. And I don't think I could bear it if Nita and her family came tomorrow. Christmas Day, Camp Holmes, 1942. 5. The choir woke us singing Midnight Clear, Herald Angels, Joy to the World, and other hymns. It was beautiful to lie listening in the dark. When we met Jerry for coffee at the kitchen counter at 6, Peg gifted us a coffee cake to go with it.
Okay. So, Christy, you can now show your face again. Yeah. I mean, that actually sounds like a great podcast and up my alley because I'm a huge history buff. So here are your options. The first one is POW Pod. Second one is Jailed Abroad. And the third one is Forbidden Diary, True World War II Prison Survivor Story.
I'm going to go with the last one because that's exactly what it is. It's literally someone reading diary entries, or I mean, it's got to be like, I'm trying to think of like if someone's like letting the podcaster like read from diaries, or like they're getting rights to do that, or they're writing a fake one themselves. I'm not sure, but it's definitely like option 3. Final answer, lock it in.
Okay. I love the lack of doubt because it is 100% that. The title is very clear. It is Forbidden Diary, True World War II Prison Survivor Story. And it's a very good title for a podcast. It is exactly what it is. It has but it has like a sort of slant title at the beginning of it. Stuff like that. Emily Dickinson would be proud.
Yes.
So here is your description of the show we just listened to a clip from. Audio drama based on a World War II diary written by Natalie Cruder during her internment in a Japanese prison camp in the Philippines. 3 weeks after the first bombing of the Philippines on December 8th, 1941, Natalie, her family, and 500 civilians were marched to gunpoint to a deserted U.S. military post. Season 1, 1941. Thus began their survival story of body and mind from 1942 to 1945. Under the watchful eyes of Japanese guards, the prisoners set up their own society while constantly scrounging for food, often aided by heroic Filipinos. Japanese commandants and homesick soldiers filtered in and out of camp as guerrillas on the outside fought to take back the Philippines. The first 2 commandants were civilians plucked from town, the third a remarkable Japanese officer with whom the prisoners found common ground, and the last a demoted lieutenant who was a real SOB. Natalie's diary is a fascinating real-life view of wartime captivity and a gripping tale of courage, tenacity, and hope. So
incredible.
Yeah, I mean, this genuinely sounds fantastic. It's about a real person. It is very well produced by the sound of it, just like very well paced. It could be an audiobook. It is of that, caliber. And just really good, interesting stuff. As a half Filipino and a history buff, I'm probably going to subscribe to this after we're done recording today.
Yeah, it just sounds really intense. My sister is a professor of history in Vermont, so I'm actually going to send this to her. She would love it.
That's really interesting. Okay, cool.
Also love the speaking style. I don't know how much National Geographic y'all watched when you were growing up, but it sounds just like whenever they were doing the animal documentaries, and they're like,
for sure,
in the African safari, the cheetah, things like that.
It's perfect. Who's the guy that is always doing like the? It's always like an Earth podcast, always like an animal podcast. David Attenborough.
Yeah,
it reminded me of
yeah.
like girl David Attenborough.
Very cool. That's why I said it was a bit like an audiobook. And it just has a very delicate, you can tell this might not be like the producer of the show. It might be like a paid talent situation where like they've gotten somebody to recreate these diary entries as a performer. It sounds really good. And it has really good cadence to it. Very NPR with the starts and stops. So
yeah, it sounds super up my alley as well. And I just want to relay a quip, which is, I don't know, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with the how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call that trend going on. And for me, it's actually quite infrequent. Like, I don't know, once a month, maybe. But mine, the equivalent for that for me is how often do you think about World War II, which is like at least a couple times a day.
Yeah.
I feel like I might be in good company on the call. Do I have some other people who for some reason have to fixate on this all the time for no apparent reason besides?
Oh, definitely. I'm a big World War II buff too, but there's just something about that Roman concrete, man. We figured it out. So
yeah, I could go into this whole tangent about how Roman concrete is actually built better than modern concrete. I won't.
Oh yes.
But unless people
we
want
all
me
agree.
to, but yeah,
we all agree.
There is actually a scientific reason that I found out about it. Okay, cool.
What's
it's
the
good
reason?
to hear.
Nicholas,
Oh,
what's the reason from the producer's box?
Because you asked, my understanding is Roman concrete used salt water from like nearby water bodies instead of fresh water. And the salt made it so that whenever things started to crack, the water and like precipitation would go in, it would re-harden the concrete and fix the cracks. So that is why Roman concrete is just like infinitesimally stronger than normal concrete in houses. They use salt water. There are other reasons,
The more
but
minerals you have in concrete, the better it is.
yeah,
Just fun fact.
there you go. You got to have all the minerals, just extra L at the end.
I like that. All minerals.
So, on that note, let's take a look. Max, you're up at bat now. And let's see what we've got for you. You covering your eyes? Awesome.
And so every single step of this process, from installing sewing machines to our first hires to our first pairs rolling off the line, everyone's going to be able to watch that. And I think that's exactly it. It's, to me, how do we bring people along, but how do we show them progress and how do we show them action? And that's why I want to really, we're waiting for that relaunch really for the factory itself. But yes, go to market is very similar.
Yeah, it's a fascinating part of it. Probably one just last question from me, although I often say that and then have a second last question. So let's stay tuned. But it sounds to me like the factory is like the thing that's right in front of you now, that the next big hill to be taken. In terms of what will make that successful for you or get you through the other side of that, what would be the ask? Like, what are the one or two things that you're like, if we could, this would help us hugely to be able to de-risk or execute on this next big step in our journey?
Two things really. One, it's just data from people, again, more of what they're looking for and what they want.
Okay. So your three options, Max, are 1, shape the system. 2, sue what? Like the word sue, S-E-W. And 3, britches get
sew?
stitches.
Not
the pod.
so what?
Yeah, like it's a pun on so what. So sue what?
Oh,
Isn't it pronounced so?
Isn't
It's
it?
pronounced so.
It is pronounced so, but you have to convey the pun somehow.
Yeah, wouldn't it
Got
be
it.
so what? Like the
It would
phrase
be.
so
It
what?
would be so what? You're right. You're 100% right.
Okay. Yeah,
But
okay.
I put a
Gotcha.
spin on it because otherwise, I just said so what?
Yeah, it's like it's so what, but SEW.
Yeah. So what? SEW. Sure. Anyway,
Got it.
the third one
Third
is britches get stitches. The pod.
Oh,
I feel that
So-
last one is probably definitely an Oliver edition. I think to answer this, I just want to tap into the team here for a little bit of echolocation from Christy and a little bit of accentillation from Elissa. Where was it? Where do you guys think it was recorded, and what was the accent of that the second fella?
I think that was recorded like.
Can we replay the clip
I'm
or
thinking-
like a refresher? I want to like really pay attention.
Instant
Like hardcore.
replay.
We can, Max. Do you want to cover your eyes before?
Sure.
You know.
We don't have to do this. We can just.
No,
You
no,
guys
we're
don't
doing
want
it.
to.
We're doing
No,
it.
no,
Play
no,
it.
I
I'm
just
averting
it's,
my eyes.
like I'm gonna put my ears like I have to close my eyes so I can listen to it.
So
like,
every single step of
fully.
this process, from installing sewing machines to our first hires to our first pairs rolling off the line, everyone's going to be able to watch that. And I think that's exactly it. It's, to me, how do we bring people along, but how do we show them progress and how do we show them action? And that's why I want to really, we're waiting for that relaunch really for the factory itself. But yes, go to market is very similar.
Yeah, it's a fascinating part of it. Probably one just last question from me, although I often say that and then have a second last question. So let's stay tuned. But it sounds to me like the factory is like the thing that's right in front of you now.
Okay. So does that
Interesting.
help everybody?
This is gonna sound super weird, but there's like this little bit of tinny thing right at the end of like every word. It makes me feel like that there's something metal in the room. I think that
Tin roof? Are they recording on a tin roof?
No. I think that wherever they're recording, there's something the size of a toaster in the room.
Perhaps a
Like,
toaster.
I think it's a toaster, or
Is it bigger than a bread box?
In
No.
the kitchen?
I think it's I don't think it's a kitchen because kitchens are large. I think it's like a workroom or a podcast room that is in like here. I'm gonna paint a picture. It's in a newer apartment building, kind of like the apartment buildings in Nashville that are coming up that have like a lot of weirdo amenities, like a podcast room. But like maybe the podcasting room has like a very like weird framing on the window, but there's a little bit of reverberation. I think they're in like an office that is a fake podcast room.
Okay. Interesting theory. Elissa, do you have any ideas on the accents before we get back to Max for
I do.
the names?
So when he said taken, so I was leaning towards British, but then he said taken, and I was like, that's not British. So I'm going to go with New Zealand once again.
Okay.
All right.
Interesting. And Max,
All right. that
after
was helpful.
sufficient stalling from you, what do you think the name is?
I can't remember any of them besides So What, so I'm just going to go with that one because I love it. So
Okay.
let's just roll the dice on that one.
You are unfortunately mistaken. I'm glad that I put an inordinate emphasis on that title now. The actual title is Shape the System.
That makes a lot more sense. It probably wasn't a podcast just about sewing. They did ask a lot of process. So definitely just one episode where sewing happened to be a factor in whatever they're shaping.
Sure.
But yeah, sounds cool. I love those kind of like, sounds like a How I Built This type of show.
Mhm.
Always a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, we can actually find out what the show is about right now. Here is the podcast description. We interview people from all over the world who are changing our systems. This might be food, energy, finance, education, health, environment, charitable, anything really. They may be involved as founders or CEOs or providers to the specific vertical. The ventures they operate may be nonprofit or for-profit, but they will have found a way to create success, sustainability, and impact. So you get a nice spread of conversations there. It sounds pretty interesting. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to personally continue to call the podcast Sue What. I'm doubling down on it. I'm tripling down, but it is Shape the System.
I do have a bit of research here. There is a podcast called So What, and it is a weekly podcast that celebrates historic needlework and those who stitched it. So,
Okay, I like it. That sounds cool. Also, I'm only realizing now that the third title Oliver came up with, Britches Get Stitches, is because of sewing. Go figure.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
all of these are fantastic names.
Absolutely.
That last one was such an Oliver one. Like, I was like, there's 0% chance that's actually the title, but I didn't want to be wrong. So
Which would have been perfect if it was,
It could have been.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I have a couple things I'd like to add. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, please.
When we do the corrections at the end, back verse, chorus, verse, that episode was vocalist Trevor Phipps. He is the lead singer of the Boston metalcore band Unearth. And also the host of the last podcast, Shape the System. While I don't know where he was born, I do see that the host, Vincent Turner, is from Australia, or at least lives in Australia, but did spend time in San Francisco. So it could be that San Francisco plus Australia equals New Zealand. Or it could be that he was born in New Zealand. I'm going to get some more research there, and we'll get back to you.
That's like Oliver math, not girl math, not boy math, but Oliver math. Plus Australia equals New Zealand.
Well, like the world is constantly revolving. He only lived in San Francisco for so long, so the accent only traveled so far. The
tectonic plates are moving, so it
exactly.
could be one day.
Precisely. So we still have 2 clips. I think it'll be interesting if we do what we did last time, where we break off into teams.
Yes.
I'm going to divvy you all into 2 teams of 2, and we're just going to go through the clips. So for this next one, it will be Elissa and Christy.
Let's do this.
That's the spirit, Christy.
That's my whole thing.
We need like a soundboard with an audience cheering just to like amp things up a little bit.
I'm the audience, baby.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no, GC Booms and they were rated 152.
Okay.
So you would, because it was a bullet tournament, they're rated 152. You would expect me to pretty much win that match quite easily, wouldn't you?
You would.
You would, but unfortunately, as I did with all the other matches, I managed to lose everyone. I'm proud of it. But I did actually, before we go any further, I looked. If you go onto our club page, look at the tournament history, look at the standings. So basically, Skyscraper Sculptor won with 13 points. Well done. Got the inaugural win on our in tournament, and we gave him a 1-month diamond membership for winning, didn't we?
Yeah.
So he won. Then we had TJP 19 second on 4 points. Well done, TJP. And then...
All right. Well done, TJP. So, first off, does anyone have any questions about where this was recorded? Anything along those lines? It is the team that specializes in that.
There's a window in the room. That's the only thing I know.
I can guess where they're from, but
very strong about Scotland.
Really? I was going to say Liverpool, England. They got the Paul McCartney drawl going.
They said Scotland.
Oh, they did? Okay. See, I didn't even pick up on that.
But they could be mentioning it. They're definitely like island nation, but like, yes, I think that they are. Yes, 100%.
Scottish or Irish, but the fact that they said Scotland gives me a very strong feeling.
Very interesting. I literally just I'm gonna double down on England simply because I'm looking at the description and there's some words there that are decidedly English, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyway.
Oh, no. I get it. Bullocks. Whatever. Continue. Sorry.
Your three choices are Average Joe's competitive bird watching, Average Joe's chess, and Average Joe's boxing.
Okay. Now we have some things to discuss because I think it's a deduction thing because there's no points in bird watching.
But they've never done competitive bird watching, you know.
Boxing's a gym, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's points in boxing. There's wins and loses.
There's points, yeah.
There's points at the end of every round, yeah.
But like if they're talking about points and you had said like, hey, is it soccer? There's no way someone got 13 points in soccer. So like football. I don't know how the point structure works in boxing. I can't make an assumption for that.
Okay.
So I can't decide if that's high or low or like within threshold of possible boxing points. So I think it's got to be chess.
I think we're getting the same answer, just getting there very different ways.
Yeah. I go all the way around.
But just before you guys decide, you do know that bird in the UK refers to something else.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, right. No. Wait. What is it? Is it cricket? Is it like a cricket thing? Bird watching?
No. Bird is a woman.
Oh, come on.
I was thinking like birdie,
Max just got back from London for what it's worth. So
yeah, you got all the bird watching points there, Max. I'm going to stick with chess.
Okay.
I'm rethinking this because I don't know that Oliver would know that off the top of his head.
Okay.
Bold of you to assume.
Talk it out. Argue.
Okay. All right.
Throw a chair across your Zoom call, by all means.
So it's competitive woman watching.
Yeah, we take it at face value.
I did grow up in New England. I'm just going to add that.
Well, yeah, but that's. I don't think
in Boston, do they call it competitive women watching?
I really hope that that's not correct.
I have to stick with chess. On a moral basis, I have to stick with chess.
I want to live in my naive bubble too and say number 2, chess. I don't know why, but
yeah, there's something about it.
We're sticking with our answer after that weird deliberation.
Okay. Average Joe's chess is the correct answer.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, you know what? You both got to the answer in very good ways, though. You were both like, you know what? I don't think that's enough points for boxing. It isn't. If you have a 10-round fight, there are 10 points in any given round that goes to a fighter who won it. So it would have literally been a round long.
Yeah.
I want to make a little clarification. So the bird watching one, I wrote this after I was on a hike and I was watching birds. I wasn't thinking about the...
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just thinking, man, I wonder if there's I was like thinking about how people are competitive for anything. And I was like, I wonder if people compete for this. And they probably do.
There's
But
probably a
that's it.
podcast about it for sure.
It's probably like like if I was going to do a competitive bird watching, it would be like a bingo card. It's like, hey, I want you to go to this, enclosure, and the first person to do 5 in a row and like actually get the picture of them. That would be like, it would be a speed round. It would be like the amount. There would be a bunch of different things.
That sounds really fun.
That actually sounds like a great
I just looked
time.
at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service competitive birding. In this annual statewide event, teams vie to spot the most birds in 24 hours while they earn pledges for bird conservation in the National Audubon Society.
Can we do that?
Oh, very cool.
Audubon Society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually running up and down the Audubon, Christy. Okay, so here's the description for Average Joe's Chess. The only chess podcast that non-chess players love. Funny and occasionally informative chess banter from 2 average Joes. It's a chess podcast that most chess players can relate to. It's like listening in to banter between 2 blokes in a pub chatting about chess and other stuff. There's a lot of serious chess podcasts out there for serious chess players. This isn't one. Who knew chess could be funny? New episodes every Sunday night. So, there you have it. That's the reason I thought they were from England, besides having the sort of Liverpool accent. 2 blokes in a pub. Just 2 decidedly English
description,
words.
like really well written podcast description.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It tells you everything you need to know about the show. And as a person that actually wants to get better at playing chess, I might add it to my list. Okay. So now we're on to the final show. We have Max and Jesse teaming up. And let's see what we got here, guys. Cover your eyes.
Seattle. Like,
for sure.
Love to have him in Seattle. Have the
You think he'll end up
personality,
in
the
Seattle?
mentorship.
What are the chances of that?
I don't know, honestly. Like he did say he wants to go back to Cincinnati, but I don't know if they're going to necessarily have a spot for him. Because we talked about that before when he's coming back from his injury. That's like, I don't know. In Seattle, though, like they need a DH, they need a good backup first baseman, and that kind of personality would go a long way in that clubhouse, I think. So
Well, and they need some experience as well. Some like really good.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of it, and yeah, I don't know. I think he'd be a good spot for him.
I hope for him, and I'm going to say this: I hope for him he doesn't end up in New York.
I don't think he wants that.
All right.
Okay. So, first off, do either of you have an idea what it might be about?
Well, I heard first base, and I know that's baseball.
Very astute of you.
Yeah, points for you,
I was
man.
going to say chess.
Points for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right. First base is when you, the thing you say before you win in chess, right?
I think so. It's what I say, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I scream Uno, but I totally know
Never
what you mean.
won in chess, so I think it's...
For sure. Okay. So let's dive in. Let's see if you guys can pick out the title of this podcast as opposed to just its subject matter. Your first option is Baseball Together Podcast. Second one is Free Agent Frenzy. And the third one is Bats, Baseball, and Baby Ruth.
Those are
What are you thinking, Jesse?
I don't know. I feel like Baby Ruth is too on the nose.
I'm leaning heavily towards the second one. I feel like free agent speculation, such a big part of.
I feel like that's good. I'm down to go with that too.
Okay.
I think
so you guys
number
locking
2,
it
we're
in?
locking it in.
Okay. I'm imagining like a giant, like kind of like a Deal or No Deal, like podium, and you're just hitting the lock-in button right now. Free Agent
high
Frenzy
rollers.
is incorrect. Unfortunately, Max, you put yourself in the high rollers corner and you just lost all of your money. No, it's Baseball Together Podcast.
That was the
This
one I
always
didn't think it
happens.
was.
Yeah. I know. I actually, personally, I would have gone with Free Agent Frenzy because I just like the alliteration of it.
Yeah.
And if I had to pick a personal favorite, I just like Bats, Balls, and Baby Ruth because I'm imagining Babe Ruth, but he's like tiny. He's like 2 feet tall and he's still playing baseball. He's like running around,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the initial version of that last one was gonna be. I just changed it. It was bats, bats, balls, and baby dolls. But after the interpretation of the word bird in the previous one, I didn't want this going off the rails, so I changed it. Because some of these things, they just rhyme, and you don't think about what's going to happen. So I don't know.
So there you have it.
I like how I was just describing things in baseball. It was like there's a ball, there's a bat, there's a guy named Babe Ruth.
Well, it's baby named Ruth there.
It's Baby Ruth. It's kind of like the Muppet Babies version of him. It's the entire person, but he's a child. Anyway, here's the description of Baseball Together podcast. Baseball Together, we believe that baseball is a community and our favorite sport is best when we enjoy it with our baseball family. Join us each week on the podcast as we do baseball together while talking about baseball events and topics like the unwritten rules, playoffs, and more. There you have it.
Beautiful.
It's a very simple description for a podcast, but it works because if you're listening to a baseball podcast, you probably already know enough about baseball, you know? So I think it works.
Definitely. I'm unqualified to speak on it. I'm not a huge baseball fan, so I'll leave it to the experts, but if I was, I'd probably listen. But not being a baseball fan, say it's probably not going to go into my rotation personally.
Okay. Interesting. I am a baseball person. It's like one of two sports I care about. So yeah, this very well could go into my rotation.
Baseball was always, but yeah, what's the other one?
It is very random, but it's old boxing history. So it is boxing, but it's like more specific to like olden boxing.
Interesting.
I respect it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like guys with names like Old Curly, big left hand.
Probably more like George Foreman.
So good.
Jesse's accurate, but Christy, I'm learning a lot about what you think about me right now, and you're not entirely wrong either. But no, I'm actually a huge, like, it's part of my being a history buff. You can look at like history through the 20th century and you can learn a lot about what's happening in the world based off who the heavyweight champion was.
Yeah.
Which was Old Curly for years.
Yes, it was Old Curly from 1898 until, believe it or not, 1941 when Joe Louis took him out.
Oh my God.
So yeah, he was heavyweight champ for 40 years. Okay. Anyway, that is all of our clips for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our little game. I realize that most game shows have a prize, but the prize was the friends you made along the way. So everyone's a winner today.
Oh,
you know? Yeah. At that, I will bid you all adieu for today. Drive home safe now, you hear, and I hope that everyone who's listening enjoyed the show.
Goodbye, everybody.